Hi everyone. Hey Cake 2. I was reading through your questions on the discussion board, and I got to thinking about just kind of how does this play out, because a lot of your questions were interrelated in some way, about how all of the workings of getting a business off the ground kind of go together. So number one, everything starts with your menu. Absolutely everything. So for instance, if you are running just a cupcake shop or just a cake shop, obviously the equipment that you're going to need and the size of space that you're going to need, you can do that in a fairly small space with a limited amount of equipment. You just have a few ovens. If you have some larger mixers, try to get the biggest ones that you can, because it's going to make it more efficient, get things going faster, because you're probably not going to have the money to pay a lot of staff. So if you can get that equipment to work for you, it's worth it to spend that extra $1,000 up front for that larger size mixer, because over time it will pay off. If you go real small in the beginning, because budgets are limited, you're actually going to end up paying for it over time, and it's going to be exponentially more, because your labor, which is actually the most expensive part, even oftentimes more than food cost, is going to be exponentially more, because all of your stuff is going to take twice as long, 3 times as long, because they have to mix the batter 2 or 3 times where they could have just mixed it once. So number 2, after you pick your menu, you need to pick the equipment that you would need, right? So go through your whole list. Don't buy things that you're not going to use right away. Also, when you're doing your menu, try to think about equipment. So pick things that use the same type of equipment. Don't bring in a large expensive piece of equipment just for one item. For instance, you're running a bakery, you're gonna serve muffins, scones, cupcakes, breakfast biscuits, and croissants, okay? It doesn't make any sense for you to be making those croissants in-house on a sheeter when that is the only thing that you're going to be making on that sheeter. You're probably not going to make that money back in croissants. Also, you can always buy them in. So you can buy croissants, par bake them. You can get par baked croissants, and then just kind of finish them off in the oven. Still delicious, just not exactly homemade. So just kind of look for, workarounds if something's real important that you offer a specific thing. Also, on equipment, there are lots and lots of places that sell secondhand equipment. Lots of bakeries go under, either from, the owner retiring, the business going bankrupt, or, just change of location or redecorating. So that is a wonderful resource to look into. You typically cannot make more than 50% back on your investment on used equipment. So it is a significant savings over buying brand new. So I'll post some links to that with this module, so that you can see where auction sites are and how you can get your hands on that type of equipment. So you've decided on your menu. Your menu is focused and limited, okay? So don't serve everything under the sun, because that makes more money in inventory. So also you need more people to make all these different things. And then you need more equipment, more floor space, more everything. So if you notice, most of the concepts that you see, most of the chain concepts, a concept is kind of a restaurant idea. So Cane's Fried Chicken, what do they serve? one thing, fried chicken. You know, they market it as this is the one thing that they just love, and that's the reason why they do it. The reason why they do it is because it's the cheapest way to do things, right? Kentucky Fried Chicken, Popeyes, they all just sell chicken and biscuits, chicken and on the bone, chicken not on the bone. But it's all the same thing: fries, chicken, biscuits, right? Mexican food places. You don't see Mexican food places also serving sushi. You would need a whole different training for your cooks and a whole different freezer and refrigerator space for all that extra food. It's not going to be the best setup. Also, there's not as much cross utilization of product. So when you're using, tomatoes in your tacos, you're also using tomatoes in your salsa, you're using tomatoes in your rice, so that one item just doesn't go to one place. So most of you have had me for a few classes now. We've talked about how pastry cream is a very highly flexible product, right? We can use it in everything. We can change the flavors. We can lighten it to make it fluffier. We can make it a cake filling. We can stabilize it with gelatins, so that, you know, we can make like a sliced cake or an entremet or something out of it. So, use these products that are very versatile, that they can go across the whole spectrum of what you're making. So if you put lemon curd on your menu, what else can you make with that lemon curd? Can you turn that lemon curd into a frozen souffle? Yes, absolutely you can. And people will not even know that that's the reason why. They're just gonna see 2 refreshing lemon things on your menu, right? Next, location. So the type of concept you have is going to determine where you put it. So if you want a very casual place, put that in a neighborhood. It doesn't matter where it goes. That can be in a nice strip mall with a lot of foot traffic. That could be in a mall kiosk or something. But it probably wouldn't be, it would be like, I would say not the Galleria, but honestly, it would be okay because we live in Texas and people will eat anything anywhere. But if you're going for more high end, you're not going to be able to put that as many places as you would be able to put casual dining. So that would have to be in a River Oaks, in like a Woodlands Town Square, in a more high income area, places where people are willing to pay for it and have the funds to pay for it. If any of you have done your own cake making in any respect, you've already had to haggle with people over the pricing and kind of make people understand that what you're selling is worth something. So having your clientele already there in the neighborhood that is looking for something artisanal and special and handmade over the Walmart cake will only benefit your business. So if you already watched the videos, April was a former student of mine. She told her story for us. In that video, she mentions that her biggest competitor is Walmart. So how does she, use a pricing strategy to combat that? What percentage does she actually figure out for her cost and what she has to sell something at? These are all things that you'll have to consider whenever you're actually making your concept. So along with location is, what specifically are you going to be selling, and what, time of day would they eat it? Does it matter? For instance, donut shops. Donut shops should be, or if you're like a morning bakery, maybe you serve, you want to do most of your business during the morning hours, maybe. You want to be done by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You would want to put your bakery on the side of traffic where people are going into town, right? So if everyone's leaving, say, Baytown, going into Houston, then you would want to put it on the side of the freeway that is going west, right? If you put it on the other side of the freeway, you're gonna miss all of that traffic. So all of us believe that our items are just the best and are worth going out of the way for. But the truth is that the consumer is notoriously lazy. So we have to take that into consideration, that we really have to make sure that we make ourselves as accessible as we possibly can to the general public. What else? Demographics. Who are you serving? So you have to make sure that you know what type maybe of cake that you want to make. Maybe you want to make high-end wedding cakes, or you want to make mainly birthday cakes. If you want to do mainly birthday cakes, situate yourself in an area of town with lots of kids. And then you would market to in areas of town where there's lots of schools, lots of daycares. You can do Facebook posts in conjunction with other businesses that serve kids. That will really kind of get your name out there in a cheap way. Social media is one of the cheapest ways to market yourself, especially if you're doing it all yourself. But going along with that, you wouldn't want to put yourself in, say, an area of town where it's mainly retirees. So if you've got a large population of 60 and over, your business is kids' birthday cakes. The only people that are gonna be buying your birthday cakes is whenever their grandkids come over every now and then. So, and generally it wouldn't be the grandparent that's buying the cake. So that's another big consideration. So what else? Your lease. Okay. Someone asked about, I think it was Joanne, about you find a place. So you find a place, it looks good. This is definitely the place that you want. Or even if you don't know exactly where you want to go, if you're just scouting the area, your first call needs to be to a realtor. So the function of a realtor is to sort of be your agent. That is what you pay them to do. So yes, you pay them, but it is worth it. Okay. So just like in buying a house, when you buy a house, you have a realtor for the seller and you have a realtor for the buyer. When you are a buyer, you will, tour houses, right? You're like, oh man, I love this house. This is just what I want. Or, maybe you're one of those people that says this house is a fixer-upper, but it's going to be perfect, right? You go back to your realtor. Well, your realtor's right there with you, but you guys put together a proposal for the seller, and basically that's your bid. So you say, well, I am interested in buying this house. I am interested in buying it at this price. You don't necessarily have to submit a price for the list price. So almost no one ever submits for list price. So just kind of know that whenever you're shopping, unless the real estate market is just incredibly hot, which at this moment during coronavirus, it's not. But it kind of just depends on the time of the year. Like summertime is always like really, really busy for house people moving. For real estate, it's usually around like the beginning of the year because that's like when the books change over. But if you're searching for a house, you find what you want, you say, okay, well, I'm gonna put in this offer, $4,000 below list price. The seller says, you know what, it looks like this person is a serious buyer. It looks like they've got their paperwork in order. Okay, go ahead and tell them to, get their inspection. And then things will get moving, right? Similar process for a commercial lease. You would have an agent on your side that will basically negotiate for you, but negotiate for you as far as square footage. So on a commercial lease, you are not really just kind of getting a room for a certain dollar amount. I mean, you are, but it's calculated in terms of how many square feet it is. So if you have a shopping center and the whole shopping center is listed as $20 a square foot, that $20 a square foot would be for a small little cubicle, or it would be for a large area like a Petco, just depending on how much area you need. So you don't want to get a space bigger than what you need. You do want to have enough space, for you to do what you need to do. Maybe slight extra room to put in an extra table, maybe for when you want to expand. But you don't want to have an extra 1,000 square feet that you're paying for and you're not using. Okay. We have to realize that the luxury of space comes with a pretty high price when it comes to your bottom line. So make sure that they negotiate for you with your price. Number 2, contract terms. So when you have a commercial building, typically you are responsible for everything in that building with the exception of just like the roof. They will, of course, provide you with an air conditioner, but typically if that air conditioner breaks, you're gonna probably be stuck with the repair bills. If the roof is leaking, they will repair the roof. But as far as the build out, they will help you with a contractor to help you with the build out of your area to make it look how you want. They can help hook you up with a designer and things like that. But that cost would largely be on you unless the developer is just really motivated to get people in there, in which case they may work with you on a build out and just kind of like wrap that into a lease term. So on your leases, the leases for commercial property tend to be a lot longer than what you've probably ever experienced. For a residential lease, you're normally looking at 1 to 2 years. For a commercial lease, they're looking at more like 5 to 10. So try to look for the lower end of that. They'll always try to sign you up for 10. Try to stay away from that because, a lot can change in 10 years. The economy can change, your life can change. Maybe your spouse wants to move away. Are you going to have to buy yourself out of that contract in 5 years? What if you decide that you don't actually like running a restaurant, you want to go back to maybe managing a hotel or something? That is also worth considering. How invested are you in staying in this for the long term? So just keep in mind, everything in real estate is up for negotiation. So try to get someone that's on your side that's trying to do the best by you, because basically that's what you're paying them for. If someone just kind of walks in there and says, okay, this is what you get, and they don't really try to work for you, go find another realtor. They're not the ones for you. So also, when you start, planning your costing out your menu, always do it before you open. Do a little bit of R&D in your house, try to figure it out. If you're working already at another restaurant, that'd be great. Try to get a clear idea in your mind of how much a dozen cupcakes costs, how much a cake costs for you to make it. You don't want to be guessing on your menu prices, especially when you first open. So when you first open, there's going to be, hopefully a lot of buzz about, oh, here's this new place that's opening. It's new to the neighborhood. It's something different. People will always try to, go out of their way to go try something different. They'll try it one time. If they try it the first time and maybe they don't have a good experience, or the cost is too high, the value isn't good, something about that, generally they won't give it another shot. Maybe 50% of the people that went in there the first time that didn't have a good experience will try again. You've lost a lot of customer base by not getting it right, like off the bat. So the better you can have your ducks in a row whenever you first open those doors, the better off, the stronger your business is going to be. Also, stick to something that you can see through. So lots of mom and pops will, they'll start with, an elaborate menu, maybe with lots of choices, really large portions at low prices, and then they're hit with reality. And the reality is that they're not getting the foot traffic that they thought that they were going to, especially when you first start off. You kind of have to realize that it's going to take patience, and it's going to take time for your business to grow. So you don't want to be bleeding money in that time when you're waiting, right? So what happens often is there was actually a mom and pop down the street from my old house that did this. They're a little Mexican restaurant, and they had large portions of like fajitas and ribs and grilled onions and stuff, beans and rice. It was a typical Mexican restaurant, but they had a terrible location, just terrible. It was not a major street. It was just it was not a destination, and basically, unless you lived in that very little 1 mile radius, you didn't even know about it. So they actually had really good food. It was their location absolutely that killed them. So be very aware that location is key. A lot of times you'll probably hear, it's an old adage, it's like location, location, location. Like nothing else matters in your business. Your food can be terrible, but your location has to be perfect, right? In some ways that's pretty true. So you getting a better location, even though you have to pay a little bit more for it, is absolutely worth it. So back to this restaurant. They were serving large portions, very reasonable prices for what they were serving. As time went on, their portions got smaller and smaller, and then their prices were getting higher and higher. So all of their local clientele that basically were keeping them afloat obviously noticed that. There were complaints about well, it used to look like this, why doesn't it look like that anymore? And they're like, oh well, they didn't really have an answer for it. They're like, oh no, that's how it's always been. And like everyone knew that's not really how it's always been. So you don't want to be stuck in that position where you have to kind of pull a fast one on your customers to make ends meet. It makes the restaurant look bad, and then it really messes up with your consistency. So in the restaurant industry, everything is about consistency. If you'll notice, when you go eat a taco at Taco Bell in Houston, you go eat a taco at Taco Bell in Nebraska, it's going to taste exactly the same. That's consistency. So no matter what you feel about Taco Bell, you can't say that they're not a good franchise, because they do an awesome job at being good at being consistent. You always know exactly what you're going to get whenever you go in there. Same thing on a smaller scale, your local chains. Papacitos on any freeway is going to taste the same. Standardized recipes. So all the time that we've been talking about standardized recipes, that's the reason, is consistency. Even if you don't plan on having a second restaurant right away, that standardized recipe is going to do you well, because no matter who makes it for you in your kitchen, whether it's you or whether it's your staff, as long as they've been trained and they know how to do it, that eclair or that cream puff, whatever you're making, is going to always be exactly to expectations of your customer. Okay, the last thing that I was going to talk about was marketing. So there has to be some sort of marketing. Try to put as much money into effective marketing as you can. That is part of your business plan. A large part of your business plan is your marketing plan. Getting the word out, making sure that people know that you're there. If no one knows that you're there, there's no hope that they're going to come. So creating captivating social media presence, having some sort of a photo op where people can post up pictures with Instagram tags and things like that, where it makes for good social media. Food and social media are like best friends. So anything that you can do to encourage people to take pictures of your stuff and post it on their timelines, where other people will be more interested to come in and essentially do the same thing with either the same dish or a different one. That is a great opportunity for you as the restaurant owner. So that's where your plating comes in. That's where your fancy garnishes come in. Drinks, cocktails, anything essentially that people like to experience, right? So social media is all about sharing an experience. So what experience can you give your guest that is unique to your place and they can't get somewhere else? That's your hook. That's where you want people to kind of sink their teeth in and say, oh man, I want to drive across town so that I can have this unicorn poop giant cone of ice cream with cotton candy coming off of it and all this stuff, right? It's out there. All of you have heard about it. So don't look at me all crazy. I know what you're thinking right now. That is your unique pitch. That's how you want to get people in. So, and that can be anything, that can be, if you want to do more of a coffee shop, if you have, a unique coffee bean, or you do fancy designs in your coffee, you've got cool croissants to go along with it. All of these things are what you need. So just something different, something just a little bit different than what other people are doing, something a little bit prettier, a little bit fancier. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to make it a little bit different than what other people have been doing. So, just kind of study other people's marketing, study what other places are posting on their feeds. So your marketing plan, together with your menu, your concept design, demographics, all of that, plus your financials, that's all kind of going to be the meat of your business plan. And your business plan is what you would ultimately try to pitch to a bank to see if you would qualify for some sort of small business loan. So when you go in, I always make sure that you ask for a little extra. You never want to go in with, just bare bones. This is the minimum amount of money that I would need to get this thing going. Number one, things always cost more than what you think they will. And then number two is that you want to have a little bit extra for buying inventory, and also for, just kind of keeping yourself afloat for the first year, where you probably will not be all that profitable. So I hope some of this helps. Be sure to post up in the discussion board extra things that you have questions about, and I'll see what I can do to answer those too.